We'll do it live.
It's the Opperman Report. Ed Opperman, it's great to have you on.
Thank you so much.
I'm a big fan of your show. I've been listening to it for years. You talk about so many cool subjects that I'm into. One in particular, we'll get into it with you, but I really want to focus on the West Memphis 3. And I guess also known as Robin Hood Hill, which I visited, by the way.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's actually on my channel. I went there probably last year. It's one of my best performing videos. I just kind of went by the crime diagram of what the boys did, where they met, where they rode their bikes, and I kind of traced it to the pipe bridge. And that's why I wanted to talk about this subject because what has it been? 30 years since the murders?
A long time, I'll tell you that, man. Yeah. I'm feeling every one of those years too, man.
And we're still talking about it today.
Yeah.
I don't want to peel the onion because there's too much to peel, but I really, really wanted to talk to you because you've had so many great authors on your show and you are well versed in this case. I believe you told me it was maybe the first podcast you did was related to the West Memphis
The first
3.
show we did was the West Memphis 3, and the subject had pretty much died at that point, so people weren't talking about it. And we got like 40,000 hits on YouTube just the first time I put it up. But then even the second time, they took it down, of course, you know. But even the second and third time we put it up, 40,000 views every time.
Wow.
Yeah.
And what year was that?
2013. The thing that we got us so much attention was we had Terry Hobbs on the show. I think it's the first radio interview he had ever done. And he had just been accused by Pam. Pam was saying, oh, he was involved. But he had text messages of her saying to him, listen, I know you're not really involved.
I don't want to go into guilt, innocence, all that stuff yet. But did you know of the trial when it was going on, or did you discover this whole thing after?
No, yeah, I remember the trial, okay? And I got involved around 97, 98 when I watched Paradise Lost.
Documentary HBO.
Yeah, the HBO reality TV show, yeah. It's not much of a documentary. Okay.
Yeah. So you saw Paradise Lost.
Right. And at the time, I was in daily contact with Art Bell. Remember Art Bell?
Yes, of course. Art Bell is my favorite.
Yeah, me too. Yeah, I used to lie in bed and listen to Art Bell at night. Yeah, I watched Paradise Lost. And I was, like everybody else, I started Googling around to see what you could find. I found the West Memphis 3 org, the support page, Kathy Bakken, Burke Souls, and Chris Worthington. And, I reached out to him. I said, hey, boy, maybe I can help out. I'm a private investigator, I help in criminal defense investigations. And I'm friends with Art Bell. I've been in touch with him every single day because I was helping him out with a lawsuit. He had this big lawsuit going on. So I was in contact with him every single day. You guys drive me nuts to tell you. And so I called up and said,
is it one of those don't meet your heroes?
No, he's a lot like he is on the air. The only thing was he was always at home. He was never out doing anything. And I don't think he had any other highly busy projects in his life.
Makes sense.
But great guy. Ramona was a wonderful, beautiful woman. She was so kind every time I ever talked to her. She was just a darling. But anyway, so I said, I'm in touch with Art Bell, and his wife happens to be Wiccan, and I can biggest show on the radio. That's at the time the guy was huge, and I said I can get you on there, and they were excited about that. They were excited about raising money and raising awareness. I offered to help them get some telephone records that I thought could help the case, and they weren't interested in that. And that's when I started first getting suspicious that the people who were the main supporters actually weren't the most respectable types I've ever met in my life, first off. And I felt that they were aware that they were guilty.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Well, let me follow that up with a question. What would be their motivations? They never knew them, right? They never met them.
Well, I think that Burke himself at one point, he says, as soon as he saw those 3 little dead boys on the embankment there, that's going to be my kind of movie. That's my kind of stuff. That's what I'm into. Okay. And it seemed like there was a lot of discussion about this topic on Usenet at the time. Remember Usenet alt?
I do no, I do not.
Usenet was an old chat forum. It was kind of like Reddit, okay,
Hmm.
uh, back in the old days, and it was like alt.wm3,
Hmm.
alt.akino, all these different type of topics that I was following actively back in those days. I was a good debater on these topics.
Hmm.
And just behind the scenes, these people didn't come off as they were concerned about the people's innocence, or they just want to promote their agenda.
Hmm. Hmm.
Was my impression.
Yeah.
And then I met Sean Wheeler. Sean Wheeler was a bulldog on the alt West Memphis 3 boards. And, he had been totally banned. Yeah, by the way, too, if you disagreed with them on the westmemphis3.org site, right away you got banned, you know?
Hmm.
And if you were a non-supporter, they called you a non, and you would get kicked off. They don't want your non-facts, your non-opinions on
Hmm.
their
Okay.
forum there. So Sean Wheeler would create his own forums in opposition.
Hmm.
And he knew the case very, very well. As a matter of fact, he's the one who came up with the Exhibit 500.
Is that the medical reports of Damien
Yeah,
Echols?
yeah.
Yeah.
Damien Echols' psychiatric reports.
Hmm.
Well, it discusses, him being committed, by his own parents, because
Yeah.
his parents were afraid of him.
Hmm.
Describes him sharpening his nails to points so he could attack another person, another inmate there at the institution here, having homicidal ideations and suicidal ideations.
Hmm.
This is all going by memory. I haven't read that thing in 20 years.
No, it sounds right.
Yeah.
It's
Oh, yeah,
I
yeah. So it was and people didn't know that back in those days. And they
right.
definitely didn't want to talk about it on the
Yeah.
org over there. Yeah.
Hmm. So it went from I do remember the alt,
Yeah.
I am old enough group, the alt group. So and it was kind of like it was mixed in with your mail browser, if I remember correctly. Um, how did it leap from that into these documentaries that were very slanted toward their innocence and to a Peter Jackson freaking
Yeah. Good
motion
question.
picture? I mean, it almost took like three major steps when it looked like they weren't going anywhere for a long time.
Yeah. If you listen to Bruce and Joe, they claim they thought that their first documentary was pretty negative toward the convicted killers, And especially at the end there, where Damien's talking about he wants to be the West Memphis boogeyman, people would be scared of him.
Yeah.
But I guess when they saw the supporters, because you got to remember, see the org started right at the time of the second documentary,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and somehow they had gotten advance notice that this thing was coming out. I think they did the artwork for the poster.
Okay.
Yeah, and I guess that they saw, hey, there's more popularity for people, identifying with these young teenage boys wearing black t-shirts. Like the only evidence against them is they're wearing black t-shirts,
I know. I was explaining, like being from Memphis. I mean, I'm
Yeah.
literally a stone's throw from West Memphis, and I still live here today. And I lived here when the murders happened. My perspective of Damien Echols and those guys, especially Damien Echols, is not like everyone else's. Oh, they're just Metallica wearing shirts, and they were just persecuted because there was no evidence, and they were the heavy metal kids. It's so much more involved than that. This is what I always say about it. I always say, this, and this is another thing about this case. It's so polarized, and and this goes back to what you're talking about, people being blocked. It's either they're 110% innocent or they're 110% guilty. There is no middle ground on this. As far as this, it's like Trump. It's very polarized. It's a very polarizing case. There's not many logical people who are saying, I'm kind of logical about it. My point is, I wouldn't be surprised if they didn't do it, and I'll tell you why. But I wouldn't be surprised if they did it, and I'm leaning more toward they did it now than I was back then. You know, because of Damien Echols and his life after getting out.
Oh, yeah, yeah. Well, actually, we have. I don't know if you saw it. It's posted on my Instagram. We have the documents from his diary. that was in that storage unit. That we interviewed
Mm.
that fellow that got a hold of the storage unit.
Yeah.
And in his own handwriting, he says, I am the devil, not
Yeah.
a devil, the devil.
Mhm.
And if you don't believe me, I'll take it. We'll go out to dinner and I'll show it to you and I'll prove it to you.
Yeah, I know, Ed, but it's still hard to go from I mean, this to a murder. I mean, certainly he fits the profile.
Yeah.
Um, the circumstantial evidence is a problem. I mean, I think like we all know for the most part, we're similar to the same age. We grew up on BMX bicycles riding through trails.
Oh, yeah.
The world before the internet.
Oh, yeah.
It's bicycles, street lights,
Yeah.
and just be home before it gets dark. So we would explore some really crazy, places as kids, as that age. So I think it was probably a place. I think they saw something, and it could have been one of the stepdads doing something, and what happened after that happened. I think just the three different knots in their shoelaces that just proves to you there's no way one person's going to tie them up three different ways and three different knots.
How do you get around all of the confessions and the admissions? The
Because he's
bragging about
retarded.
wanting to do this.
What confessions, though? I mean, the kid's
From
basically
all of them, they all confessed.
to who?
Miscali confessed before he ever went to the police. I,
Jason Miss Kelly.
yeah, he confessed about his shoes. I don't want you to wear shoes anymore. Take my shoes. He was crying about the little boys dying. I think it was to Buddy Lucas. He was crying to. That was before he ever went to the police. Okay. Then he goes to the police. He confesses. I'll tell you nothing too. And listen, I can understand back in the 90s, people say, oh, this poor little retarded kid, he's confesses they took advantage of him. They had him, the kid, he's confesses they took advantage of him. They had him in there for 12 hours. It wasn't 12 hours. That was a lie. It came out that was a total lie by the Joe and Bruce. But now we see, you go on YouTube, you can watch confessions from morning till night. Okay. And we see that 90% of these murders, they can barely talk, they can barely function. They're all stupid. They're all stupid people. Okay. So, almost every single one of them. You can imagine the boring interrogations that they don't
Yeah,
show us
but
because
a
the
lot
killer
of them are
is so stupid.
psychopaths.
Okay.
Narcissists like Damien
Yeah.
Echols. That's the difference between the two. Damien Echols is a smart one.
No,
Jason,
Baldwin's very smart too. And there's indications too that Baldwin is even more into the Satanism than well, not more, but equally into the Satanism as Eccles was. Let's return to the confessions for a second, okay? Because you got to Jesse Miskelly confessed with his hand on the Bible, with his attorney there in the room. He made another spontaneous confession in the police car after his conviction.
mm-hmm.
So we've got Jesse Miskelly, okay, and the theory is, well, he was tricked into this confession because he's just borderline retarded, okay, or borderline mentally, whatever the politically correct term is, right?
Yeah.
But I met his very good friend. I met her on the internet, and I have a screenshot of her comment. And she goes, "Oh, he's not stupid at all. He's a very smart man." And she's the one who bailed him out of jail.
Man,
he was driving around with the no headlights and unregistered car.
right.
And she sees this guy every day.
Mm-hmm.
So we have his confessions. Now we have the confession of Damien Echols in front of the softball girls. All right. Now, if you just watch the HBO show, it's like, there's a couple of girls, and and maybe they made it up or whatever. Then later on, he admits, well, they didn't make it up. No, I did say it, but I was joking. But if you read the police reports of that incident, this wasn't just Damien Echols walking by three little girls. This was a whole big chaotic incident at this softball game where Damien and his friends were bragging about these murders in front of these little girls. The parents were moving their kids away and to different seating. Okay, this was a big deal. Okay, Dennis, this wasn't some little passing comment. This was everyone there was aware of these comments. Okay,
Were they suspects at the time?
I don't think they were. No, I guess they were always suspects, right?
I just think Damien Eccles was doing what he was doing on the trial. He wanted to be the boogeyman. And the way I always look at it, it's like, okay, dude, you wanted to be the boogeyman. You wanted to play this shit up. You fuck around and find out. He found out and he ended up in jail, prison for the rest of his life on death row. You brought it on yourself because you were whether the things you said were true or not.
But remember too, he talked about wanting to do this before his baby was born. He says, "If I have a male baby, we're going to sacrifice it to Satan." They talked about this before, and also too shortly before, their involvement in the occult and vampirism and Satanism was widespread. That girlfriend, Dominique Tier, right? She had a sister. I forget her name, but she had a magazine about vampirism, and she was the spokesperson for Transylvania vampirism. Okay, these were people heavily involved in blood drinking and blood letting and stuff like that. His previous girlfriends too, her boyfriend talked about it. He had a whole police statement talked about he had done a ritual around her with candles and wax and all kind of stuff like that, a satanic ritual around her body. He was talking that night to a 12-year-old girl.
I don't doubt it.
Like,
I don't doubt it at all. But still, Ed, you got it. I mean, we're talking in the court of public opinion here, and we could say whatever we want. But I just, I mean, I just wish there was a smoking gun. I wish they had something more that.
But Nas, the
Yeah.
smoking gun is they admitted it. They talked about wanting to do it.
Look,
They admitted,
Richard and Alan Delphi confessed to it 60 times, 60 different ways.
I
You
don't
know?
know who that is.
Yeah, well, you need to look into Delphi because it's going on right now, and this is very similar to the West Memphis 3 case. The difference is nowadays we have technology that put him at the scene, and he admitted to being at the scene. It's just they got everything but in West Memphis 3, yeah, they did walk through those woods, didn't they? Yeah, I'm leaning toward they're guilty. Don't get me wrong, but I do like to play the devil's advocate a little bit sometimes, and I do try, I do blur the lines between legal and public opinion.
Well, devil's advocate is perfect for this case.
That's true.
But
I
also
lean on
too,
the side of caution. Put them away.
Nas, also too, you would have to believe that every polygraph was a bad polygraph. That everyone,
But we're
every
talking.
single polygraph
But
in this time.
I know, Ed, and I agree with you. But I still have to fight. Still have to push back a little bit. Confessions and polygraphs aren't 100%. People false
No.
confess
But
all the time.
in this case, they would have to be 100% wrong, because everyone who said Damien did it passed their polygraph, and everyone who said he did it failed. So they would have to be 100% wrong. And by the way, let me tell you something else. I believe one day Damien's going to come out and admit that he did this.
I've thought about that. I hope that's
Yeah.
the case.
Oh,
I
I know.
really hope. Well, the storage unit thing is interesting too, because not the only time I hear people talk about the storage unit stuff is on the Opperman report.
Yeah.
And in that storage unit, I want you to get the listeners up on that storage unit after I say this, but in that storage unit was pictures of him, his main advocate that got him out, his current wife, in like BDSM type.
Right. We never got a hold of those pictures. That guy promised to send us those pictures. He never did.
Oh, okay. So we're
Yeah.
gonna strike that. We're gonna strike that off the
No,
record.
no. I believe they exist.
Mhm.
But also too, because there's writings there where he talks about hog tying her. Okay, which again is one of these kids were hog tied. Okay, which is another thing here. Uh, then you have what's his name, Jason. He admitted to his cellmate. So they've all admitted the crime. But Damon especially talked about wanting to do it, did it, bragged about doing it, and then they all pled guilty to doing it. They lost the trial. Something wrong with the trials? The trials were unfair.
Well, yeah, they pled not guilty.
No. They pled
The
guilty.
original, in the original.
Oh, the original, yeah.
I'm not talking about the
And then they were found guilty by a jury of their peers.
Alford plea is what I was trying
Yeah.
to get at.
Yeah, they were found guilty by a jury of their peers. Alfred plea is a guilty plea.
Yeah, I know.
The only reason why you don't see more Alfred pleas, people not wanting to admit their guilt, is because the judge is going to give you a hammer at sentencing. They want to see some kind of repentance. These guys had already done their time, so it doesn't matter. Okay.
Well, they should. If they did this crime, they should never see the light of day, Alford plea or not. But Jason Baldwin was the last holdout on the Alford plea. He was basically saying, "I'm not doing it because I didn't do this crime." I mean, Damien Echols had to convince um, Jason Baldwin to do it. That that's on record.
Not aware of that.
Uh-oh. Uh-oh.
I'm not an expert on this case. I haven't debated this case in 20 years, man, years ago. But and now I can't even see what the point of even discussing this is anymore.
No, no, you're right. Well, there is a point though, because you know, there's still some legal things going on. There's apparently some DNA at the scene that
Yeah, the
Damien
judge says, yeah,
Echols.
if you wanted to test it, then you shouldn't have pled guilty. The case is closed.
Yeah, I agree, and that's part of
Yeah.
the offered plea. They shouldn't have got. There should no be no offered plea. I mean, it's like the state is basically admitting. Let's look at the other side of the coin. Let's look at the defendant's side of the coin. The state is saying, you know what? We're not sure we can get y'all again, so let's just compromise. It's a compromise. Plead guilty. We'll let you go, and let's never talk about this again. That's not ironclad to me if the state's doing that, right?
Well, if you listen to the Meese stuff, he actually talked to the prosecutor, and they felt that they were overwhelmed with the money and the publicity that these three guys had. People like Johnny Depp, and like you mentioned before, that fellow there from The Hobbit. Who's that guy? Uh,
Oh, Jackson.
these guys, a ton of they had money pouring down on their heads, and you got to wonder too, what would make this case and these three characters so attractive to people like Johnny Depp and Mr. Jackson there, they all have the appears to have the same issue.
Okay, all right. Let's talk open about that.
Okay.
Let's talk about the options. Are they evil and satanic,
Okay.
or are they just dumb and ignorant, or is there another option? What is Eddie Vedder doing? Does Eddie Vedder, what I'm getting at? I mean, Eddie Vedder was a big part of it.
Yeah, Eddie Vedder might just be stupid, but when you look at Johnny Depp, I'm pretty sure he's involved in the same stuff.
Yeah, yeah, and I don't mind talking about that, because like your show says right in the beginning, New World Order resistance. I love
Yeah,
that. Who is that guy?
that's a James Arthur Jancic who did that for me.
Love that.
Yeah,
Love it. And I don't mind going in this direction because even with this Diddy stuff, I mean it, and things are really coming out of Hollywood, the music industry, that, and Damien Echols, if you really want to get to it, they all could be in the same. I mean, if we really want to get conspiratorial or whatever, good and evil, I think they're just evil people, and they're trying to suck the life force out of their victims.
yeah, yeah. I can give a little firsthand involvement in that. Okay.
Go ahead.
I had a guest on my show, Paul Barassi, private investigator, investigator to the stars. They call him the Hollywood Bagman.
Right.
And at the time, he was the investigator for Amber Heard. And I wasn't even interested in the Amber Heard case. He's telling me, oh, I'm involved in Amber Heard. I said, okay, great. Let's talk about John Travolta. Let's talk about this. Let's talk about Michael Jackson. Let's talk about this other stuff. So when he comes on the show, Johnny Depp's lawyer listens to the show and goes in one of these gossip, Hollywood gossip columns and starts making fun of Paul Barassi. Paul Barassi gets offended. It's really easy to poke him with a stick and get him going. Okay. So he gets offended and he calls up Depp's lawyer and they have some conversation there back and forth. And somehow he winds up no longer representing Heard and speaking well of Depp. Okay. Okay. He kind of changes horses in the middle of the race there, right? Now, I had some information about Depp, okay, from a listener that came to me years and years and years ago about Depp and his activities down in Florida, near this private airstrip in the Everglades. And I gave that to Barassi. So Barassi kind of changes ships, but then he never publicly actually worked for Depp. But they interview him on that Law and Crime channel, right? It's a really interesting
Yeah, I do
video.
like that
People want to
channel.
watch it.
I'll put it up on screen.
So they interview Barassi, and he starts talking about how he looked into Depp's background, and he found it very illuminating. He was illuminated by Depp's background. Yeah.
Illuminated.
So he had clearly taken the information I had given it to him, and now he was seeking more compensation from the Depp camp.
Wow. What is all these tattoos that Damien Echols, all these symbols that he has tattooed all over himself? And I believe Marilyn Manson has some. They're buddies.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. Those are called sigils. Yeah. Those are called sigils. And again, another one, Manson's another one into this kind of stuff, you know. This is outright Satanism. This is Crowley worship. Okay. Crowleyism. We also have information that when Echols was in prison, he was a Thelmalite and he was a part of the Crowley group there in prison and had so many books about Crowley and the occult and stuff like that that they created a whole library from books just donated by Echols. So he's deeply, deeply, deeply involved in all this kind of occult. Also, too, in blood drinking, they were all discussing blood drinking. Who's that girl again? Dominique here said, I drink blood. My parents drink blood. What's the big deal? We all drink blood. Okay. These are people deep, deep, deep into this stuff.
When he got out and then eventually moved to Portland, right? Is that where he is now? Which is kind of
No, it was Salem. He first moved to Salem.
Yeah, Salem's a lot.
Oh, another coincidence. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean that it's like he's not necessarily. I mean, it's not like everyone has to make a living even after you get out of prison. So I can't fault him for making like appearances and maybe speaking engagements, but everything he's done has gone to the dark, what we would consider dark, which is, moving to Salem, getting all these tattoos. He's not exactly saying, "Hey, everyone, I'm innocent." It's like he should have just disappeared, like Miss
Well, did you see the
Kelly
way
and
he showed up to the
Baldwin.
last
No one
public?
knows where Miss Kelly and Baldwin are. They could be down the street for all I know. He's out doing appearances, tattoos, out and
Yeah.
about. He ain't hiding anything.
Well, his last appearance at one of these court hearings, he was dressed in a total cloak, big long black cloak.
He's doing he's doing this to everybody,
Yeah.
which is what
Yeah.
he did in 1994 when he was being tried.
Oh, by the way, too, and when he came out too, he was hanging out with Genesis P. Orridge. I don't know if you're familiar with him, her. It was a male at first who transgendered years and years and years ago, but she's a member of the Process Church of the Final Judgment, man. Okay. Serious satanic cult. So he's in there with that mix.
Yeah, he's definitely is, and he's not shy about it. It seems. I mean, it's loud, and I do want to. I'll dig deep and put some shots on the screen of all these tattoos. All I want to know is these symbols. What are they connected to? Is it dark magic?
Towards the sigils. Yeah, it's magic. It's black magic. Yeah,
Black magic.
yeah.
Okay. Well, that's kind of concerning, right?
Well,
is it black magic? Majik?
no, it's Magik.
Magik. Okay.
Yeah, magic with a K. Yeah.
Got it. I want to see what this is.
And that's the chaos magic from Crowley, all that kind of stuff. The chaos sex magic.
I'm going to read this to you, and while I'm reading this, let's think about the crimes. Let's think about Damien Echols. Black magic, also known as dark magic, is the use of supernatural powers or magic for evil and selfish purposes. It is often associated with the invocation of demons or spirits, but is distinct from the worship of these beings. Supernatural powers, the only way you can really get that is by taking someone's life in this belief or drink their blood.
Yeah. Crowley said the younger the better. The younger the boy, better, you get more power from it. Yeah, and Echols was aware of that.
Do you think Diddy? Are you following this P Diddy stuff? I mean, how can you not? But do you? I guess let me just ask the question: do you think P Diddy is just a sexual deviant, or is he kind of like this, evil black magic type stuff?
There's a really good YouTube video of this fellow Jonathan Odie. Did you see that?
No.
Okay, this is a fascinating story. Okay, people should watch that. In fact, I have that video up there on my Patreon and the Opperman Report page in the free section. You can watch it for free. Jonathan Odie, 2018. He goes down to the Darrell Trump golf course in Miami and he shoots up the joint, gets into a shootout with cops. And it's kind of a funny video too, because he's running through and he's slipping and sliding on the floors. He's running highly waxed, polished floors at the Trump Country Club there, and he's shooting over his shoulder wildly. And then the next scene, they show the closed circuit, the videos of this guy on video shooting the cops. Okay, 2018. It's 2024, 2018, he's shooting up these cops. But then he says, I want to speak to the U.S. Secret Service. I want to be interviewed by the Secret Service. So they have his interview with the U.S. Secret Service. Now, he had gotten shot a couple of times
I
himself.
know where. Yes.
So he's sitting there in his hospital gown, but the guy is such a tough guy, is such a muscle that he, like nothing happened. Yeah, I got shot in the foot. I had to take my shoe off. That was from a personal incident in my personal life. He goes on, he starts talking about P. Diddy and Cassie. This is years and years before the
Yes.
Cassie
Yes.
lawsuit. And he's talking about P. Diddy smuggling drugs, and P. Diddy
Yes.
hired him as a sex worker. He was dancing at this gay nightclub, and Diddy would have him come down and have sex with people and videotape and blah, 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 and the pink cocaine. And but he also gets into a lot of stuff about the Freemasons and the Boule and all this kind of stuff. Some of that stuff I think he got just by Googling the internet. But the guy definitely knew a lot of stuff about P. Diddy. He got some kind of settlement because right after his divorce, he ran out and bought all these distressed properties. Then he gets caught up in this case here. There is no disposition to this case. He has not gone to trial since 2018 when he's on video shooting at cops. There's no
Wow.
doubt in my mind this guy's working with the FBI. The Secret Service is a pretty serious organization. I was involved in the congressional investigation of Secret Service misbehavior way back with that case back there in the Columbia with Obama.
Mhm.
Now, they're serious enough to, when this guy tells them, hey, P. Diddy's smuggling drugs and stuff like that, they're going to make a referral over to DEA. They're going to make referrals to FBI for sex trafficking. They're going to do that just to cover their own bases. And it appears that Odie is a witness to all of this, and he's working with the feds right now against Diddy. Is Diddy a Satanist? I don't know. Okay. I have one little piece of exclusive information that no one knows. Friend of mine was a New York City cop who did a security for a P. Diddy event.
Mhm.
And the guy who brokered that job was Keith Schiller, Trump's head of security,
Mhm.
who was supplying off-duty New York City cops to P. Diddy.
Mhm. Well, that's why we're sitting here in 2024 and it's just coming to the surface. Should have came to the surface
Yeah,
25 years
that's
ago.
part of it. Yeah.
Can you
Yeah.
know how many victims have been raped by this guy allegedly
Well, it's like
since
100 plaintiffs right now.
but I'm talking in reality. This is an every weekend thing for him, probably.
Mm.
I mean, for the last 30 years of just literally raping people while they're
Unconscious. Yeah.
conscious, unconscious, basically, which is
Yeah.
horrifying to me to think you're paralyzed and can't defend yourself.
Yeah.
I go back and forth on that. Yeah, of course we can talk Illuminati, Jay-Z, all this other stuff, Puff Diddy, or we can just say they're just evil people with no conscious psychopaths that it could just be a sexual deviant lust.
Well, there is the whole Crowley chaos sex magic. That is a thing. Ritual sex magic and rape involved in for their occult purposes. So I don't know if we're talking about Diddy or Damien. Echols, I would think it would
Both.
definitely be aware of that. I don't know, man. Diddy seems more like I don't know.
I
Until you
think
hear all that stuff about the
I,
Illuminati stuff. I don't know.
well, yeah, I murder of children versus rape of children. They're both bad. And
Yeah.
I think everyone's with P. Diddy. I think no one was expecting the underage stuff to start coming out. And to me, that's when it enters a whole new level. Did you hear? Now, you don't know what's real or fake these days.
Actually, people have been talking that for a long time.
We're talking what?
The allegations around Diddy. The allegations around
Well,
Diddy.
the allegations, but not with children, right?
Oh, yeah.
You heard that before?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Hmm. It's crazy because the parties have been, I mean, we don't even have to rehash it, but an open secret. I mean, you're on Ellen, everyone's joking about the Diddy parties. But we all know there are two type of Diddy parties. There was the after party, but I don't know, man. I think when the videos of Justin Bieber started,
Bieber's no saint himself. Okay. Bieber's no saint himself. Okay. Uh, there's a lot of stuff that goes on that never makes it past the press agents and then gets washed through the publicists and the tabloids, the whole catch and kill thing. I'm in deep with all those guys. The Stormy Daniels case, yeah.
why can't the Fed stop a catch and kill? I mean, I'm not about government taking over, but to me, it's like, okay, if there's videos that exist of celebrity trial, they shouldn't be able to catch and kill that. You know what I mean? Like,
Well, I don't know anybody who would. Well, I don't, but there are people out there. I tell you that. But none of the people I work with would silence something like that. They would take that to the cops. All the people I've worked with. But there are a couple of guys out there that I know that they were they knew Michael Jackson. They knew what he was doing, and they were working with him. So
well, the problem is, will some of these celebrities eventually come out in documents? Yes. Will all of them? No. And that's the problem, because of this
oh
catch and
no, that
kill.
there's a whole system. There's a whole publicity system to keep these things quiet. And there's guys out there who work basically as professional stalkers. It's not even just that you have to worry about getting a lawsuit or getting killed. They got these guys that'll just drive you nuts, man, and just make your life miserable
I know.
if you don't go along with what they want.
It's true.
And they're out there, they're for hire, and
Did you this is why I brought this up. So there's apparently, and once again, you have to be careful with these tapes in these days because AI is getting scary good. I mean, it used to be photographs, now it's video, now it's everything. I mean,
Mhm.
but there's I heard it and it sounds legit and he's talking about clean up the empty pizza boxes. This is Diddy
Yeah.
speaking to someone and he keeps mentioning empty pizza boxes and it's like, whoa, if that's real.
And then recycle the plastic. Now,
Yeah.
what do you call it? I don't know if I shared that when I heard it. I shared it. I don't know. I haven't looked into what the origin of that is. I probably should.
Yeah,
Uh,
maybe that's why I saw it.
it just happened though. You can't have time for everything.
No, I know you don't. Well, time will tell. It'll be interesting to see uh, what happens with that and what comes out and what doesn't. Unfortunately, I think there are things catch and kills, meaning. And let me explain what a catch and kill is to the audience because they might not know what we're talking about. A catch and kill is basically there's a video of you doing something illegal, um, like this Diddy stuff, and they have the one copy of it, and they will sell it to you and make it go away for a ransom, essentially, right?
Yeah. They'll have in the case with Stormy Daniels, the tabloids put up the money for it. Then they killed the story. But those things go on all the time where you get paid to sign an NDA and not talk about something, and then and I've even seen old articles in like the Hollywood Reporter and old Wikipedia comments and entries removed during the negotiations, the settlement negotiations of the case. You can see in real time live comments being removed from Wikipedia and from old news stories about the allegations of a certain celebrity.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. Did when you were mentioning these guys that cause trouble? Do you know that podcast No Jumper with tattooed face guy?
No,
He's got a popular podcast, but he's lately been in the headlines for cuckolding. You know what cuckolding is?
sure, I definitely know what cuckolding is.
I'm not going to ask if you know from a firsthand experience, but from either side. But if you want to let me know, let me know. Um, so so he has a wife. They have I believe a daughter, a young daughter under one. He lets her film gangbangs, basically, with large black men.
Yeah, I think I have heard this story.
There you
Yeah.
go. That's what I'm saying. So, you kind of know of it. So, yeah, and everyone's calling him a cuck, and he's like, fuck y'all, and this is whatever. But the reason I'm bringing him up, because he does have interesting guests, and he is kind of from the streets or knows the street a bit, younger than us.
Yeah.
He was involved, like, there's a rabbit hole you can go down in the early, like, in around 2012, the SoundCloud rappers. There was this underground sound like Extension and all these young rappers, little Peep, it came up when they had this platform, SoundCloud, so they can do their own. It was almost like, wow, I can be a rapper now, put it out there, and if it takes off, it takes off. So, and there's some things going on in that world where these young guys,
Yeah. I had a guest on. I no longer trust this guy, but I had a guest on the show. In fact, I deleted the show, and we did a show about Extension, that guy there. And he had those kind of parties too, and he was also smuggling drugs too.
There's a one ringleader. They had to mention Adam 22 was somehow part of this,
Yeah.
but now he's this popular podcaster. But he had a guy on who, and you might have read about this. This is about a month ago, who literally admitted, like it wasn't even like he admitted. He was just talking casually, like, "Yeah, this is what I do. I'll get celebrity A, um, blackmail him with some stuff, and never let him off the hook. They're
Yeah.
give me 100 grand right now. It's just a constant blackmail loop that never ends. And he's just like, yeah, that's what I do. And he got arrested for it. I'll put that on the screen too. But it was almost like, how do you go on a? It was so scary how nonchalantly he was talking about it. Even Adam 22 was like, bro, like, are you really talking about this right now on this show? And yeah, he got arrested. It's professional blackmailers that blackmail celebrities. And
No, oh no, yeah, there's a ton of that stuff going on out there.
yeah. And I think where it gets dangerous is when the lawyers are in on it, because they could really make things legally go away. I think it's pretty shitty that, like, I was molested or whatever by Diddy, but I just want to do a settlement. What's that
Well,
about?
you know what? Okay, I hear that a lot. Okay, especially with the Epstein cases, people say, "Oh, darn, another survivor settled,
Mhm.
and now we don't go to trial." That means they're getting off. But the thing is, man, look, the actual plaintiffs in these cases are seeking a settlement. This is what they want. They want a settlement. I'm not there to judge what they want or what their cases or what their lawyers get paid or what I get paid from these cases. That's just how it is, man. You can't get a criminal conviction every single time. And although that would be the ideal situation.
Mhm.
So if you can get a financial settlement, that's the next best thing you can do. And these people need the money. Okay.
Yeah. But I guess what I'm saying is, like one of the accused, like adult accusers. I'm not bringing
Yeah.
minors into this, but adult accusers, they willingly may have had a sex gangbang party, you know, or maybe they were raped. But I don't know where I'm going with that.
I know where you're going. That there's a popular belief, okay, that well these lawyers that anybody can sue for anything and anybody can hire a lawyer and sue somebody. And that is kind of true. There are some, guys out there with a shingle, and some they run their law office off their cell phone. But there was a small group of real professional lawyers who handle these kind of cases. And trust me, man, they're not going to take these bullshit cases. There's many cases. There was even Epstein cases too that we couldn't take that we know for a fact these girls were victims because they went to Royal Palms High School over there in Palm Beach. They knew everybody else involved. People knew them, but still they weren't. There wasn't enough to connect them to Epstein. So we couldn't take the case. So trust me, man, it's the other way around. These other cases too, that some no-name lawyer, they throw a lawsuit out there. Those things get tossed, man.
Mhm. Yeah, yeah, you're right. Well, let's talk about some things you got going on with
Okay.
the Opperman Report.
Like I said, last night I interviewed Dave Emery. He's been around for 100 years. We did a show about the assassination of John Lennon and the mysterious background of Yoko Ono. Then I interviewed this other fellow about the wrong numbers, this call girl operation in Las Vegas, where these guys got in there and they were forwarding the escort service phone numbers to their own escort services and stealing other people's clients. It was a big story back in Vegas back in the 90s. But the past month or so, it's my 11-year anniversary was in September. So I've just been talking about all the old shows I've done and all the behind the scenes stuff that people didn't know about. Like a lot of times I'll have a guest on the show and then they'll hire me as a private investigator later on to advance their goals, whatever they're doing. We had Jordan Pruitt on the show because she was molested by Keith Thomas during a Disney tour. And we just did a regular interview. And then after the interview, she called me up and I says, "Hey, do you know who I am?" She goes, "Yeah, you're that PI that puts together the lawsuits." Sued Disney, sued Thomas, a great case there. So a lot of stuff, man, that I've worked on over the years, last 11 years since I started doing the show. West Memphis 3, Epstein stuff. I did the first radio show about Jeffrey Epstein. And no one even knew the name
Yeah.
when I did that show back in 2013. Uh, you know, West Memphis 3, I interviewed the last interview with Dr. Dale Griffiths, who was trashed and smeared in that documentary. They tried to claim that the guy didn't have a legit education. The guy was a police captain.
Yeah.
The guy was a college professor, and they try to smear this guy, man. I had some great stuff, man. If you watch The Octopus on Netflix, The Octopus Murders, the center of that story is a fellow named Bill Hamilton who wrote the Promise software, who's the president of Inslaw. And I interviewed him. He's never done an interview in 45 years. And I interviewed him exclusively for 3 hours. They tried to smear him on that Netflix thing there, man. But I think we did a pretty good job coming back with the facts. They left a lot of stuff out of that Netflix thing. I'm in a movie right now called CIA Drugs Are Us by John Potash. You can find me in there.
Oh, get out of here.
Oh, yeah. I was in it, the part 1, too, Drugs as Weapons Against Us.
When you mentioned the John Lennon assassination, you got some great shows on that. What about Paul McCartney? I want to get real with you for a second. Do you really think that Paul McCartney, the one we know of now, is a clone?
No, I don't think he's a clone.
But not a clone, a double.
I think he was replaced. I think they replaced.
Yeah, right. You really do believe that?
Yeah, yeah.
Tell me why.
Oh boy.
Did I open up a can of worms?
Well, there's just so much to, but I'll tell you one little thing right off the top of my head. When I had May Pang on the show,
just give me one nugget.
Okay, one nugget. I had May Pang on the show, right? The Lost Weekend, the girlfriend of John Lennon. Mm-hmm. I've had her on the show twice, and when I asked her about that, she goes, "Oh no, he's not dead. I've met both of them." It was sort of a slip of the tongue, man. But that's just what I got to find that clip and pull that up. So there's that, but there's just so much, Mal Evans, the death of Mal Evans, shot by one of the RFK cops, there's a lot of stuff there, man, around Paul McCartney and Yoko and the death of Lennon, a lot of,
Yeah, and that's why I implore people to go to the Opperman Report on Spreaker, on Patreon.
Yeah, with the Patreon, it's worth it to go down there even for the free stuff. To go there and check out for free. I got all the Jack Smith indictment paperwork, the P. Diddy indictment. I have all that stuff up there. I have 700 pages. It was just released by the FBI of the Franklin cover-up. Exclusive stuff about McMartin preschool. Just so much.
This is the last thing I want to talk about. Howard Stern.
Okay.
Because I know I know you've interviewed Monique from Radio Gunk.
Oh yeah.
And I know you listened to Stern back in the 90s, right?
Well, yeah. I used to love it.
Yeah, me too. Where did you drop off with him? Or did you? Do you still listen every, when he's on?
No, when what happened? I had a problem with my bank account, and my bank account got closed, and so the Sirius payment stopped, and I didn't think it was worth $30 to do it again. That was about in the last year. Okay, I stopped listening. Yeah, I did a couple of jobs for the Stern Show.
Can you talk about them?
Sure.
All right,
because it was all public stuff. The first one was I did a job I got started with them with Gary. No.
I remember you talking about Gary. Okay, keep going.
It wasn't Gary. The first one was Steve Langford.
Steve Langford. Let me do my who gives a shit, who gives a fuck.
Well, when Langford was interviewing me, and I said, I haven't done anything yet. What do you mean? He goes, no, don't worry. And so I say something, he goes, fascinating. Fascinating. I said, okay, Steve, relax. Oh, okay. The first thing I did with them was that guy Jared. I think his name was Jared, a really handsome guy on the show. Someone had created a fake Plenty of Fish.
He's the one. Yeah, he's the one that he was JD's arch nemesis.
Right.
Yeah.
So someone had created a fake Plenty of Fish account. So I contacted the show, I guess, and I says, hey, I do online investigations, dating service. I can investigate that kind of thing. And I even my plan was to create a fake profile on Plenty of Fish of a woman and contact him from that ad. And the woman who I used was one of Mel Gibson's Russian porn star mistresses, okay, who was a client of Gina Rodriguez, who was also Stormy Daniels' agent involved in the Tiger Woods case and all that stuff, Charlie Sheen stuff, all that crazy stuff. So anyway, that was my first contact with Langford and the Stern Show. Then Gary was running for commissioner of sports, the Parks and Recreation.
Yeah, I remember that.
Gary wants to be the Department of Parks and Recreation, and some crazy person in the town created a fake email account and really wrote this horrible stuff about him, really slanderous stuff. And I was able to investigate that, and I found out that the email was just created 5 minutes before it was sent. We traced it back to a library, so we was able to go back to the commission and tell them it was a fake email account. But really funny is during my agent and my client Gina Rodriguez was on the Stern Show for the Tiger Woods beauty pageant.
Yeah, I remember.
Because she was representing all the Tiger Woods women at the same time I was helping Gary with this other case. So I actually probably could have rigged that contest if I wanted to. I guess I was doing this work for free. But then the other one is when Langford was playing my interview during the Howard 100 News. It was the same day as they were interviewing Charlie Sheen, and we had, we had a lawsuit against Charlie Sheen too.
Wow,
so, yeah, it was all this big giant. And it was funny too because I was driving back from taking my daughter to college one time, and I was in North Carolina, someplace in front of this Chinese restaurant, and I hear they repeated it, the Langford thing about me.
That's awesome.
I was just sitting in my car, just having it come on.
How surreal was that?
Yeah, and I was trying everything I could to try and tape it, or catch it. I couldn't pull it off though.
Yeah, I know of some Stern fans in the Dabbleverse that has every minute of that show archived somewhere. I'll see if I can find that for you.
Okay, I can probably come up with the date. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, if you could come up with a date,
yeah,
I'm almost positive I could get it for you.
I'd love to get the clip of Art Bell talking about me. That's the one I've really been trying to get. I think it's gone forever though.
It might be hard. Yeah.
Oh, so you're going to ask me something about Stern?
Yeah. I was just asking generally
Okay.
if so, I kind of there's a whole, I guess you could say, his old fan base kind of turned on him, and you could say that he turned on his old fan base.
I interviewed Jackie the Joke Man too, and Crazy Cabby,
who just passed away recently. You knew that?
Oh, did he, man?
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
He had contacted me in the last year, and he says, "Hey, let's do another interview." Because the first one I did with him, he got so depressed, he ended the interview short. Kind of like I'm feeling right now,
Oh shit!
So I feel all depressed. He started talking nonsense. And then Stuttering John, I had Stuttering John on the show. So I get the time or the date wrong because I read it on his website, and he gets mad at me. When you get it? I said, I got it from your Facebook. I'm reading it right now from your page. What's the wrong one? Okay, I'm sorry, Mr. Mullins. I apologize.
Yeah, it was whatever it was. It still wasn't his fault. Do you know what of the? I mean, this Dabbleverse thing is insane.
I don't want to get involved in.
No, don't get involved. But I'm just saying, it just sprung a life of its own around him and that kind of behavior that he's done, that he's displayed after.
Okay, but Nas, here's a good example for you. Okay, I had a bad run-in. I had a bad day with Melendez, right? Okay, but I've moved on in my life. I haven't devoted my life to the guy. But move on, man.
I agree. But the Dabbleverse, John keeps it going. All his enemies keep it going because you got idiots like me watching it every day. Yeah, there's a marketplace for it, and it's honestly, it's like the Stern Show. Post Stern Show. It's Stooley, it's Stuttering John, it's KC. All these guys are fighting.
Yeah, Casey was supposed to come on the show too. He kind of flaked on me.
He flaked on me too.
What are you gonna do?
Nothing.
Yeah, there does seem to be a pattern of they were all very troubled people that left that show.
Yeah, this will be the last thing I say about that. It seems like anyone that leaves that show that doesn't really find success after it's gone. Maybe a little bit, like enough to get you through, kind of like Shuley, with his podcast and this whole Dabbleverse stuff. So yeah, it's very rare that any of them go on to do great things. You know what I'm saying? Very few of them, anyway.
Well, in the entertainment business, if there's people out there saying, "Hey, I don't want this person to succeed," and they have a lot of connections, that happens too.
And you're talking about Howard Stern.
Yeah, well, yeah.
I can read.
Let me tell you something. Let me tell you. The thing I did a little favor. Okay. And then I said, "Hey, can I put out a press release and talk about this?" And otherwise, I wouldn't. It came out in the press. My name was mentioned in the Greenwich Times or whatever, the historical Greenwich Times Gazette. Okay. I was memorialized in there as his private investigator. So otherwise, I wouldn't have mentioned it. But I says, hey, man, I'm a huge fan. And I put
Mhm.
out a press release saying I did a job for Gary Delabate, not even Stern. I start getting calls from the president of Sirius and then the Sirius litigation squad. Yeah. All right, all right. Okay, is that threatening me?
It doesn't surprise me. Yeah. Hey, I got 1 minute. Let me just kiss your ass for a minute or two.
Yeah.
The stuff you have covered, the
Yeah.
things like Epstein, the things that you are so overlooked, it's just a shame. The last 12 years of your show, the things that you've been talking about, we're talking about way before anyone was talking about. And man, I just commend you for that. And I just implore anyone who's enjoying this interview right now is to go to the links below and subscribe. Ed, it's been a pleasure. It's been surreal. I can't tell you how many toys I've built in this room right here, listening to the Ed
Mm.
Opperman Report. I implore everyone to go see you. I hope to talk to you again about something else. It's been a blast. Please, everyone, go see. He deserves it. I mean, this guy is the real deal. Anything else you want to plug?
Not off the top of my head, check out that movie, CIA Drugs Are Us. It's a great film by John Potash. Excellent work. That's about it.
All right, Ed. I'm going to put everything in the description. I appreciate your time. Thank you very much. It was an honor.
Good night, my friend.
Thank you.